KayFabe Smark Podcast. Welcome to the KayFabe Smark Podcast with Eric Todd and Brian Rampa, your smart mark source for news and opinions on the world of professional wrestling.
Hey, what is going on? This is the 3rd of June. This is the KayFabe Smark Podcast. This is episode 54. We're coming at you live on YouTube. If you're listening on the audio, make sure you pop over to the KayFabe Smark on YouTube. Join us over there, like and subscribe and share, all that fun stuff, so you can join us on Thursdays when we go hot around that 9:45, 10 o'clock mark. You can get the little notification when we do that. Make sure you check out all of our other social media at Facebook, Instagram, and all of that. Let's kick it over to Mr. Eric Todd and see what he has going on in his world.
Oh, you know, same old. Had a nice long weekend for Memorial Day. Did some grilling. Watched a Gordon Ramsay how to cook the perfect steak video on YouTube and perfected that to a T with a nice New York strip. And watched A&E's biography on Mick Foley. It's their best one yet, man. Mick Foley is, and I didn't think you could make him look any better than we already know him as, but A&E really put the spotlight on him, man. Mick Foley's a hell of a guy.
I do not have access to the A&E at the moment with YouTube TV, so I have to find access to A&E. Maybe come over to your house and watch these biography episodes and catch up on them all, but I'm dying to watch them because they all look very, very good.
Yeah, they're all really good, except for the Randy Savage one. They kind of pooped on him, but all the other ones so far, even Ultimate Warrior, they kind of paint everyone else in a positive light. But, not Randy. Randy still got heat somehow, even though he died like 10 years ago.
Yeah, poor Randy. Did so much for the business and doesn't get the recognition on the other side of things. But I don't know what he did on his other side of things to those people. So we'll go on from there. We're going to definitely dive in and tear apart and talk about AEW and their Double or Nothing pay-per-view that happened over the weekend. And I think that's going to be the big meat and potatoes of it. Other than that, usually we tap into a little bit of news. We got anything going on there, Eric?
Yeah, we're going to start right off with the hot news right now. The biggest story of the week, WWE releasing another batch of stars, and this time it's actually some names on there. First things first, Braun Strowman recently released. Aleister Black recently released. And those two were actually involved in some pretty big feuds over the past couple weeks / months. So that was a big surprise on those two. Ruby Riott also getting released. Lana, a.k.a. Mrs. Rusev, getting released. Santana Garrett and Buddy Murphy. Now, something kind of funny about this one is WWE is breaking down doors and finding new ways to release people. For the very first time, these wrestlers were released via text message from Johnny Ace himself, John Laurinaitis.
Wow, I didn't read that. I missed that. I caught the article as it was passed by from our good friend, Mr. Andrew, and he sent it over to me, and we were going back and forth about it, and I didn't get that it was done over text message. I did. My biggest surprise over this was Braun Strowman. I just saw him as the biggest one. Now, I know Aleister Black's been having some vignettes. He'd been come back at the SmackDown. I know Lana had been working some angles and actually starting to become a part of the WWE world again. But Braun Strowman, I mean, he's a former, just recent world champion. Like, that's a big name. Big, and he's in main events.
Right. That was obviously the biggest cut throughout the week. And the speculation on Braun Strowman is when he negotiated his last WWE contract, apparently he did a very good job, either him or his agent, negotiating them into receiving right around $1 million a year. And it seems, what's the Khan over there running WWE? Nick Khan.
There you go.
Speculation is Nick Khan kind of just sees the response on Strowman and now he's just kind of doing the hokey pokey over there, getting in one thing, getting out of another, not really getting a extreme response. And with other big men coming in, it just seems that Braun Strowman's really not worth that $1 million a year. So it's a good way to take a chunk off of that payroll.
I guess it is something we shall see how it turns out. And, I hope they all find a home to work in and somewhere to go. I know everybody goes instantly. They're all going to AEW. I don't know if that's always the case, but I'm sure we will probably see somebody from this list pop up over there. I'm not an instant everybody's going, but I'm somebody, a few, will.
Yeah, I was just discussing this with my son because I was saying Lana has to go to AEW. That's where her husband is. Braun Strowman, if they don't pick him up, they're fucking idiots. Would be the biggest name that they have. That's a current wrestler anyway. And Aleister Black, I say they have to pick him up. But then I'm thinking, AEW's roster is pretty saturated right now. They have so many wrestlers on the payroll and everything, and there's no way they're going to be able to keep picking up ex-WWE stars without releasing some of their indie-style mud show guys,
Yeah, that's the thing, is that everybody instantly wants to go, well, AEW will grab them, AEW will grab them. Well, AEW has a budget, too. So WWE is working with a budget. There's money, and you can't just have hundreds and hundreds of guys signed just to sit there and do nothing, or and wrestle on YouTube on your your YouTube channel shows. So they have to pick and choose as well. And like you said, they either got to cut down their bottom roster to open up, but our 20, 30, I don't know how many guys worth Braun Strowman's $1 million a year. How many guys they got to cut to get rid of it? So is more talent worth one big talent? Is it? I can't tell you that. It's a. You just got to figure it out. I don't know the answer.
Well, seemingly out of left field, as I'm discussing this and I'm saying how AEW has no room to keep signing guys, I'm clicking through the news while I'm talking to my son about that, and I read, this is a couple days before the cuts, in fact, that Tony Khan announced that AEW is set for a huge expansion, and they wanted to add a lot more names to their roster. So if AEW is looking for a quote-unquote huge expansion, and they have that Rampage show coming up in a couple months here, who knows, man? They might be picking up some big names, but if you're going to get anywhere close to Strowman's $1 million a year, that's really going to kick the budget in the balls there. The old Young Bucks might have to take a pay cut, or Kenny Omega might have to take a little bit of a chop to the salary, and I don't think those guys are interested in that.
No, I would have to agree, is they're the ones that went out and took this chance, right, and went over there. I'm sure there was offers from WWE for all of those guys, so they went out there and they started this, in a sense, they started this thing, right? Not with all of their money, but they left a guaranteed offers of WWE and to go start this thing, so are they going to want to take a pay cut for their risks? Are they going to want to get rid of their friends to pick up some names?
Yeah.
It's a tough world and tough calls, so we'll see. I would see a guy like Aleister Black fitting in. Braun Strowman, I'm not positive how he would fit in. He would be a literal giant there. We've talked about AEW doesn't always pick up the biggest of fellas, right? So there's a lot he would be obnoxiously huge over there. I don't know if it would fit and work. We'll see. Lana is probably if I'm going to say anybody that's a 100% given, Lana. Her husband's
yeah.
Unless she just quits the business. Unless she just quits.
Yeah, Lana could pull a Renee Paquette thing and just kind of take a soiree away from the wrestling business for a little bit and do her own thing. Who knows? But yeah, you bring up a good point about Braun Strowman. There is not many people in AEW who could, in a believable fashion, beat Braun Strowman. Maybe Lance Archer, maybe Miro, but I guess on the other end of the coin there, the way AEW books things, we could eventually see Orange Cassidy giving a Canadian destroyer to Braun Strowman, and the Dynamite viewers wouldn't even think twice about it.
Yeah, that would be miserable and the drizzling poop.
And then a couple more AEW stories here. So the worries were running wild when AEW got bumped over to Friday night last week. Friday night, 10 p.m., they aired their show. This was their go-home show for the Double or Nothing pay-per-view. They went on the air right after SmackDown went off the air over on Fox, and AEW on their go-home show only drew 526,000 viewers last week, which is a huge drop. I didn't think they were going to drop that much.
That's pretty bad.
It's the lowest viewership for Dynamite ever.
But that's buried on a Friday night at 10 o'clock, right?
Right. That definitely had something
That's
to do
not helping.
I was thinking that maybe the SmackDown audience, they draw over 1 million, I'm sure, would kind of move over and just watch back-to-back wrestling show, but I guess that wasn't the plan.
Yeah, that Friday night thing I knew was probably going to hurt them, and that late in the evening, 10 o'clock, is not a prime spot, I would think.
Right. And then my final story here, AEW Spanish commentator Willie Urbina has been fired by AEW. And, oh man, this was cringy. I heard the audio over on the Wrestling News Source. So the Spanish announce team were commentating on AEW Dynamite, and they went to commercial, but the Spanish announce team's mics were left on. And we hear in Spanish Willie Urbina very openly, very stereotypically mocking Hikaru Shida's Japanese accent. And that went out live across Fight TV. Everyone watching Fight TV in the Spanish channel heard that. So AEW, quick to react, went ahead and put Willie Urbina in the can. He is out the gate.
Willie Urbina. Cool. A guy I didn't know existed is gone. But, yeah, if you're going to mock somebody on TV, you should probably make sure your mic's off.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, man, it was pretty cringy. So I'm sure it's everywhere on there, but I happen to see it on Wrestling News Source. Go ahead and check that out, and you'll definitely get some douche pimples.
Ooh, good old douche pimples. Did you see the rumor of the kind of jump back to the cut there, the cuts that WWE is looking to possibly be sold to NBC? That there's the rumors are brewing. I know we're jumping back a story, but I just remembered that I saw that and it clicked in my head. So did you see that? Do you think there's anything truth to that?
Well, that's definitely the speculation. I first heard this on one of Jim Cornette's podcasts last week. He mentioned that this is all the true tale signs of a company trying to gear itself up for a sale. You cut salaries and you raise profits and you make the company look as profitable as possible, and trying to fluff up your balls a little bit and fluff your feathers and try and gear up for a sale. So that started with Cornette, and then as the week progressed, more and more wrestling YouTube channels, news websites, and whatever, they were all pretty much pointing at the same thing, that it looks like Vince is going to sell. And you just gave me the news today that Comcast/NBC is most likely the highest chance of being a buyer. And with the Peacock deal, I guess that's
ding, ding, ding.
only logical there. The only other one I was thinking of was maybe Disney, because Disney buys everything.
I think they own part of Comcast.
Probably.
Yeah, it just makes sense. WWE's been in bed with NBC for the last, 100 years. They've been having Saturday night's main event on NBC since we were kids. The USA Network is an NBC property. I believe when they were on Sci-Fi, all that stuff, everything that they've been doing over the years for the most part, except for that little stint when they jumped ship and went over to Spike for a little bit, I believe was just NBC all the way, right? So makes sense. They dumped the WWE network pretty quick as soon as they changed that the office people in there, and jumped to Peacock, and it just makes sense. It throws me off because it's always been a McMahon business, right? And now it's going to be, Vince would never sell. He would let it go die before he'd sell, and now he's possibly thinking about selling. And it makes me think about Stephanie and Triple H and all the time that they've put into it and creating Triple H, creating NXT and making it into the thing that it is. And is he going to get a guaranteed position? Is he going to take NXT and he gets to walk away with that? What does it all mean? What does it all mean?
Yeah, Vince being the control freak that he is, money-wise, it doesn't seem to make sense. Vince is a billionaire on paper through and through, and he's in his mid-70s. So why he would need even more money is beyond me. But I don't know, just pulling it out of my ass that maybe he thinks that once he's gone, that Steph and Triple H are just going to cash in and sell the company. So if anyone's going to sell WWE, it's going to be Mr. McMahon, I guess.
I guess he created it. He can kill it too, That's the only ways about it. Anything else going on in the news, Tip?
No, that's all I saw. Just a bunch of small stories that nobody really cares about. Velveteen Dream, I guess the reason he was released is because he got in an altercation with somebody backstage. It had nothing to do with his sex scandal. But just a bunch of dumb stories like that nobody, honestly, is going to care about. So that's going to wrap it for this week's news.
There you go. We wrapped up the news. We didn't hit the news ticker this week, changing things up, keeping it different. We just kind of dove right into it. Next thing you know, we were talking about it, and here we are. So, always following the news, we get a little overrated, underrated, and figure I'd have a little fun with this one. We're going to do overrated, underrated guys from the WWE that jump to AEW. Since we're going to talk about AEW. Throw it off a little different here. So up first, let's say overrated, underrated, jumping from WWE to AEW, The Big Show.
That's definitely, especially after his commentary on Double or Nothing, Big Show is definitely overrated. I think Tony Khan made a mistake with that one. It was a big name, but I don't think Big Show is in his comfort zone, so to speak, in AEW. He needs to be in front of a camera. And so, yeah, Big Show, overrated.
For me, the Big Show is overrated because a voice isn't a Big Show, right?
True.
I know he's going by Paul White and all that nonsense, but he is the reason you want to see said Big Show is because he's 7'19" and weighs 422 pounds, whatever it is. You want to see, as polite as possible, a freak show. You want to see
he's a spectacle. He's an attraction.
You want to see a spectacle. You want to see an attraction, and a guy on a microphone sounds like a guy on a microphone. So let's say overrated, underrated, jumping from WWE to AEW, FTR.
All right, FTR was underrated. They came into the AEW hot, and they were sticking to their guns. Every time they got into a match, they were killing it. Everybody they were in a match with, even if it was green rookies straight out of wrestling school or straight off the indie circuit, FTR raised the game and made them look good. But lately, man, it's just that AEW booking. So FTR's guys were definitely underrated, let go way too easily by WWE. But I don't know. They're starting to teeter now, and they're going to get to the point, if they keep doing this goofy shit with Pinnacle and Chris Jericho and all that, they're going to become overrated really quick.
There you go. Overrated, underrated, jumping from WWE to AEW. Spoiler alert, Lio Rush.
Lio Rush, extremely overrated. I don't see what the big hype is about him.
Because you thought he was Leon Ruff?
Yeah,
you got the names. Terrible. You got the names tied up there and got confused, and neither one of them have left an overwhelming impact on your brain.
Right. Why WWE would basically name a guy with a very similar stature and very similar build and very similar complexion. Why would they give him a very similar name too? Yeah, nothing stuck out about either one of them that made me a fan. So I think AEW making a huge deal about pulling Lio Rush, that was a mistake. Overrated.
It was a mistake to make him feel like he was a big deal, or it was just a big mistake to get him in general?
I mean, you could go scoop Triple H's shit out of a toilet, and it's going to be more talented than half the roster on AEW. So, Lio Rush just being trained in the NXT a ring there he's definitely a talented guy, and he can probably teach these indie guys a thing or two, but yeah, it's just not as big as a deal as AEW is trying to make it out to be.
Yeah.
The casual fan doesn't give a shit about Lio Rush.
Yeah, it wasn't quite the number 21 pop that I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be, I don't know, anybody else. Overrated, underrated, jumping from WWE to AEW. Big Mark Henry.
Another spoiler alert?
What are you going to do? People saw it by now.
Right. I'm going to say Mark Henry is going to get booked just like Big Show. And these guys in AEW, as long as they got the Young Bucks and as long as they have Kenny Omega chirping in their ear and trying to keep them doing an indie style at the Cirque du Bullshit, I don't think anything Mark Henry can say as a coach is really going to resonate with these guys. And he's just going to be another commentator. He's going to be on that stupid Rampage show too, that I don't see a ton of people watching on Friday nights. So unfortunately, because the way he's booked, where they're putting Mark Henry, it's going to be another overrated situation.
Think it's just a cash grab for good old Mizark?
Oh, yeah, 100%. You see the money mark Tony Khan over there just throwing $1 million contracts around, and Vinnie Mac's got nothing going for you. You might as well go snag some cash.
There you go. Last one, overrated, underrated, jumping from WWE to AEW. Chris Jericho.
Chris Jericho, terribly overrated because of the freedom he was given. Chris Jericho needs to be on a leash. I'm not saying the WWE leash where you write every word he says, but somebody's got to be there to reel him in and tell him, Chris, that's a terrible idea. It's embarrassing. Don't you dare put it on TV. So Chris Jericho went from probably the biggest get possible for a startup wrestling company to just being a complete overrated goof.
You're not wrong. When they first announced it, I went, oh my God, they've got Chris Jericho. And you're right. I think Chris needs somebody to tell him no. And that was the problem with WCW. Not Chris Jericho in WCW. He wanted out of there. And he built himself up to be something and then got out of there. So, but he's almost got that Hogan thing in WCW where it was like creative, freedom, and nobody told anybody no, and it was just Bischoff could write checks and Ted Turner would sign them, and you'd move on with life, and eventually it goes down the toilet. But so I kind of see that same pattern repeating itself on TNT of all places. So, and the Turner Network. So, anyways, that is it for WWE guys jumping to AEW.
One more, Brian, and I'm turning the tables.
Uh-oh.
I'm giving you overrated, underrated, guys who jumped ship from WWE to AEW. Miro.
Oh, that's a good one. In his original thinking how he was going to lead or come in, I would think that it was underrated, that he was going to come in and be, and then he came in to be what he was, though. So then it was overrated. He kind of rode this roller coaster of underrated and overratedness. Then he went way overrated. And now it's almost underrated because you're going, WWE could have done some cool stuff with this guy. So he left shitty gimmicks in WWE, in a wedding gimmick there, to join a wedding gimmick in AEW, to be a video game guru, to now just being a monster that can just kill you with his bare hands. He should have been the kill you with his bare hands guy to begin with and go from there. But I would say, so overall, I'm going to say it was a little overrated on how it was done.
I agree. Yeah, the way he was brought in was overrated. He is definitely gaining some traction to turn that around. And I think he eventually let some of Corny's words get into his head, and he ditched the Minnie Mouse t-shirt and became the heel he's supposed to become. And let's hope he stays on this track, because this current Miro is fantastic.
Correct. All right. Well, that's overrated, underrated. Eric even got me with one, and now I think we'll move in and tear apart this AEW PPV.
Yeah, so we had Double or Nothing Sunday night. Brian came over and we hung out, shot the shit. I didn't have my laptop out to take notes, but I was able to review the show again, take down all my notes. This was a long show, Brian. This show was over 4 hours long.
Yeah, that was a little obnoxious.
We're not trying to do a 4-hour podcast here, so we may leave a thing or two out on these reviews, but we can get right into it. Did you want to talk about the free per-view match there that they had?
I mean, whatever. Those matches always blow, but we can run down it real quick.
I don't even remember who it was.
Wasn't it? Was
Do you?
Serena Deeb was in it. It was for that women's match. It sucked. She retained her NWA championship.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it was an NWA match. So was it Thunder Rosa or
no?
She seems to be involved in every NWA match.
It wasn't Thunder Rosa. It was Serena Deeb and someone else. Oh well, let's move on. It sucked anyways.
Anyway, we're going to move into the main show here. So we got a nice sunny day in Jacksonville, Florida, 8 o'clock Eastern. The sun's beating down, and we are going to kick it off with Adam Page versus Brian Cage. And as Jim Ross says, it is Page versus Cage in a rage.
Yeah.
First thoughts?
First thoughts. My first thought was that wrestling looks weird in the daylight.
And my first thought was, with Brian Cage's gimmick that he came to the ring is who is this RoboCop looking motherfucker?
That's not even a work. That's for real. He's shooting there. We turn it on and he looks at the TV and he goes, "Who the hell's that guy?" Oh, that's Brian Cage.
So these two guys, Page and Cage, worked really well together. There wasn't a whole lot of stupid spots in this match. You got Brian Cage suplexing Adam Page onto the wooden entrance ramp, which is a little dangerous, a little bit of a stupid bump, but it's par for the course for Adam Page, and it's a pay-per-view, so you're just kind of expecting it there.
Yeah, and the other thing is we came in to a full shot of a shot of a full crowd. We're talking they were packed in tight there at Daly's place, so we had a full packed venue, and a live crowd really changes it even on TV, doesn't it?
Oh my God, it brought the excitement. I forgot what live crowds were like. We had the paid live crowd in AEW for a while. You just had all the jobbers from the back lined up cheering, but a full 5,000 seat capacity crowd going absolutely ape shit for these guys really brought the excitement up a few notches.
100%. So, but we'll tear apart this match. I thought that Adam Page and Brian Cage worked well together. I thought there was a good gel. They had the offsets of styles. You had clearly taking nothing away from Adam Page, but you had the power coming from Brian Cage. Adam Page is strong in his own right, but you had the agility and the moving from an Adam Page. And that works well to yin and yang back and forth on your styles of wrestling. And I enjoyed that part of the match, definitely.
And their styles ended up overlapping a little bit towards the end of the match here, with Brian Cage, the 6'1", 270-pound gorilla, standing on the outside of the ring, flipping over the ropes and attempting a buckshot lariat on Adam Page here. So, yeah, that big monster can do that move. I don't know if it says more that pretty much anyone can do that move or just how athletic Brian Cage is for his size.
Yeah. And then, not to be outdone, Adam Page catches him and puts him in the F, whatever they call it, the F10. I don't remember. But nonetheless, it's that in one of Brian Cage's finishing moves. So that was pretty cool. He misses the lariat, gets caught in that, and so he does the flip, the agility to go into that clothesline, and Adam Page catches him and reverses it and puts him in his finishing move, little finishing move trade-off, and that was pretty cool. It showed the power of Adam Page there.
Right, so we got to see the agility of Brian Cage and the power of Adam Page showed off in this with a little finishing move trade-off. Can't take away the AEW booking style here. Of course, some interference has to happen. Ricky Starks and Hook try to interfere. Brian Cage tells him to buzz off, and while he's distracted, telling his cohorts to hit the bricks, Adam Page hits him with the buckshot lariat and gets the win. And that tension between Brian Cage and the rest of Team Taz is starting to boil over. It's bubbling.
Yeah, that was... I mean, obviously you'd been seeing it working, and it's actually, nice and refreshing to see AEW working a long-term storyline and kind of sticking with it for several weeks. It's started slow, and it's been building over, and, we're almost to that point. So it's nice to see that they remembered that they started a storyline and they're going to finish a storyline, so that worked out good. Taz helps keep it going on commentary in this match and helps put Brian Cage over and helps the Team Taz idea stay alive so you don't forget about it. And I think all in all, they had all of the working parts of this just worked well together in this match. I enjoyed this match.
It'll be an interesting turn when Brian Cage turns babyface. First things first, what's going to happen to that FTW title? Is he going to hold it as a babyface? And then the other thing, what heel in the AEW can beat Brian Cage pretty much besides Miro? Archer's a babyface now. Is there any other big guys left?
Well, no, but this is AEW, and things can take a turn at any moment, and anybody can just flip sides and jump ship. So, let's not count, Lance Archer out. He's just an angry man. He can just want to fight anybody at any time.
True story. So Adam Page ends up getting the W on that one. And then we can hop right into the next match. This is for the AEW Tag Team Championship. We've got the Young Bucks taking on Jon Moxley and Eddie Kingston. And
I wanted to love this match. I like the Young Bucks. Still do. It's riding its waves. But I like the Young Bucks. I like Jon Moxley. And I really like Eddie Kingston. So this was like, hey, how do you go wrong? By booking it this way and working it and working it this way. I think this is the same thing like you said about Chris Jericho earlier. This is at least 3 guys in this match. I'll leave Eddie alone in this that aren't told no. You've got the Young Bucks who are kind of in a boss position backstage that can make up some rules. And you've got Jon Moxley, who's a big signee, that they want to keep happy, right? That he wasn't used properly in the WWE, so he was out of there, and he wants it done his way, and that's the way it's going to be done. Somebody's got to bring it in, though, and bring in the reins, right? And I think that's what happened here. Is 3 guys had an idea, and nobody said, why don't you change this? Why don't you look at it this way? Why don't you do that? It was just, go for it.
Well, somebody should have told Nick Jackson no when he decided to dye his hair. So Nick Jackson's got a nice black beard going, and then he's got his bald skull cap, receding hairline, and then that light brown hair. He's looking like 1984 Barry Gibb. He's going to start singing some Staying Alive. Oh, man. Nick Jackson just looks like a complete an utter goof now, and I hope he fixes that real quick.
Yeah, that was bad. Maybe it just didn't come out right, and it was go time, and there's no time to fix it. You got to go out now. It's either that or shave your head, stupid.
Right, and so yeah, his new hairdo and beard make me hate him, and I don't hate him because they're heels. I just hate him because he looks like a goof. No stranger to interference here. The Good Brothers are quick to come down and try to interfere in this match, but they are foiled, Brian, by the newly coined elite hunter, Frankie Kazarian. Frankie Kazarian comes down and saves this match from distraction, fighting off Anderson to the back. And my question is, what the hell does Frankie Kazarian have to do with any of this? And when did he become the elite hunter?
Because they lost to the Young Bucks. So now him and his friend Christopher Daniels cannot be a tag team anymore.
Oh, crikey. So every time you lose a match, you have to interfere in the rest of those people's matches for as long as you may live.
Because the elite ruined Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian.
And the officiating throughout this entire pay-per-view was absolute garbage.
They should have just got Rick Knox a stool and had him sit in the corner, and he could have counted the 3 when somebody pointed at him for the win.
You might as well. Rick Knox is they haven't written it into storyline. I'm surprised they haven't. But Rick Knox is basically the Young Bucks' personal referee, and he made sure he got distracted while all that hoopla was going on with Frankie and the Good Brothers here. And the Bucks had to hit Mox with the cold spray, spraying him in the eyes, whacking him with the can. And yeah, Knox doesn't see anything, man. He is the world's blindest referee.
Well, let's be honest. He saw so much and did nothing about that. So who really cares about what he didn't see? Pretty much 90% of this match was spent with multiple men in the ring at the same time. I'm not talking 2. We're allowed to have 2. It was always a 2-on-1, or a 2-on, or all men in the ring. Somebody was double teaming somebody at all times. There was never anybody. They were outside of the ring. They were inside the ring. They were all over the place. They again should have just said, Jon Moxley's in this match. It's a Jon Moxley rules match. Then you could just go with it. Just make that a thing. And
there you go. False count anywhere. No DQs. And that's pretty much the definition of a match where Rick Knox is the officiating referee.
Yeah, and that's what we got the entire time. And, well, I didn't even like it. And I liked majority of the guys in this. And I think, I didn't care for any of that. It was just, I think it was just poorly done. And we'll move along here because there's a few more things I know that you really hated.
Well, Mox gets himself involved and gets outside of the ring with old Buck Hogan here, and he gets him up in the tombstone position so that Nick and himself can go ahead and do the Meltzer driver right on the entrance ramp there. Moxley gets some color at that point, but Mox just rolls right into the ring after taking their finishing move onto a wooden entrance ramp, gets right back into the ring, and he's just ready to keep on fighting. This is where the Young Bucks double team Jon Moxley for it seems like an eternity. And Rick Knox, I don't even think he's counting at this point. He just lets both Bucks go wild. There's no rules. 3 people are in the ring at once. It's just a double team on Moxley. And good old Eddie Kingston, Mr. Angel Boy himself, he can't get into the ring. He doesn't want to break the rules.
No.
That wouldn't be very babyface of him. So that was just irking me big time that Rick Knox obviously gives no shits that how many people are in the ring, but Eddie Kingston is just so frustrated that he can't get in the ring or he can't get a tag to get in this match. And moving on, Moxley ends up making a comeback from this double team, and he grabs Buck Hogan around the waist here. That is Matt Jackson there. Matt Jackson goes ahead and puts a waist lock on his brother, Balding Buck, there. And Jon Moxley proceeds to German suplex both of the Young Bucks. Now, there is no way in hell, if you know the smallest things about physics, if you can drop a bouncy ball and know that it's going to bounce, your knowledge of physics would tell you that there's no way Jon Moxley is grabbing two men with, let's say there's about 3 feet and then roughly 350 pounds with the leverage. There's no way he's suplexing these two idiots.
Without them helping, right? I mean, clearly, you just got to go. They jumped and moved with it.
Right. Obviously, they helped, or this thing wouldn't have happened.
If he can pick up two full-grown men and throw them, why isn't he the champion still? How come he couldn't beat Kenny Omega?
Yes, he can German suplex 2 bucks at once, but he couldn't beat Kenny Olivier. So, and then we get Mox and Kingston doing a little homage to the Road Warriors here and hitting the Doomsday device. But Moxley's holding a pair of the Young Bucks sneakers at the time, and what that is supposed to add to the move, I couldn't tell you. But the Doomsday device was polished up a little bit by a pair of sneakers. And I'm not sure if it was around this point in the match, but somewhere throughout this match, Matt Jackson starts doing Hulk Hogan impressions. And as you all know, you've heard on this show, you may have heard other places, Matt Jackson does not sell. And that has earned him many nicknames. Road Warrior Buck at one time. Currently Buck Hogan is what we call him. So that nickname originated from Jim Cornette. So I was just going to pull a theory out of my ass that was a little shot at Jim Cornette for the Buck Hogan remark, because we all know the Bucks listen to Corny.
If they don't listen, they get briefed on what he says. And if they say that they don't, they're liars, because they've had the word mud show in the back of a semi-truck before. And he did that Hulk Hogan thing, and he was really kind of he was mocking Hogan. There was no question, which is a funny thing because Hogan's not a relevant thing in WWE, right? So he's not mocking WWE. It would be different if he was to be mocking the champion there, right? If he was, or going after somebody that's relevant there, mocking Triple H like they did in the on their web show there when they were jumping and signing with AEW and all that stuff. So, yeah, it's got to be corny, which is just funny. Right. But who cares?
I don't think Hogan has ever said anything about the Young Bucks or AEW at all.
Hogan probably doesn't know any of it exists.
Yet, to be honest, he probably has no idea. So the only person that could have been a shot at is old Corny here. And, yeah, I don't know. And then we gotta push through this thing. But this thing was just full of such bullshit spots here. Now, there's a finishing move made famous by the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, and that would be the super kick. Now, the Young Bucks, obviously big fans of the Click. They have picked up a lot of things from Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, or whatever. Well, one of the things the Young Bucks have also become famous for is the super kick. One super kick from Shawn Michaels will knock you on your ass.
And win championships.
And win championship matches on the highest echelon of wrestling. Moxley gets hit with about 50 super kicks here, Brian. That may be an exaggeration. It's probably closer to 10. But he stays standing throughout most of these super kicks.
Not only does it not put him down for a 1, 2, 3, their super kicks can't even knock that man down.
No, and when he finally does go down after like number 49 and 50 super kick, Moxley kicks out at 1.
Now, who does this look worse on, in your opinion? Does this look worse for the guy throwing the super kick You know what I'm saying? Who in the business? Because does it make their super kick look weak? Is it supposed to make Jon Moxley look super strong? Is that super kick supposed to be as equal to Shawn Michaels' super kick, which has clearly won him many of WWE titles? Or is Jon Moxley a superhuman and can withstand all super kicks? Right? Which way am I supposed to take this?
I think the way it's booked is they're booking Jon Moxley as a Terminator, as a superhuman, and he can take 100 super kicks.
To me, it just makes me think that they throw a shitty super kick.
Right. And you would think it would be a devastating super kick. From the leg slap sound is the same as Shawn Michaels. They've really got that down pat with with every kick, you know.
But let's also remember, it's not just one buck. He was taking double super kicks from two. So their two super kicks on either side of the face is not equal to one Shawn Michaels. Remember that in your exchange rate.
So yeah, what this is going to do is it's just going to tank the super kick, and the Young Bucks don't care, because all they care about is their self, and all they care about is getting their shit in. And they don't care that the super kick doesn't do any damage, because they get a pop every time they throw a super kick. So the compromise here is make the super kick weak as hell. That way you can throw 75 of them in one match and get 75 separate pops from the crowd.
Yeah, not going to lie, I did love yelling super kick party when they would throw super kicks when we saw them at All In a few years back, and watching, watching them in New Japan and Ring of Honor. Like, I was a geek for these guys. But again, that was a rarity when I was watching them, right? They weren't at every Ring of Honor show. They weren't at every New Japan show when I was deep into that. But when they were there, it was fun. Now this is every week, and sometimes twice a week, that we get to go to the super kick party. Well, great. I've been to the super kick party. I'm over the super kick. Do you get what I'm saying? It's not worth a t-shirt anymore.
Right. I don't care if you've got the hottest nightclub in Los Angeles with the hottest girls and the best drinks and the best music pumping. If you got to go to that nightclub every day of the week, it's going to get old, and you're not going to give a shit anymore. And
right.
And that's what a super kick party is. Super kick party was cool the first few times you see it. It's cool to go to a super kick party, maybe once every couple months or so, but we're seeing multiple super kick parties every week.
Boo. Yeah. All right, let's push through this thing so we can get through this. There's a lot of shit.
Yeah, we're only on match 2 here. So finally, the 58 super kicks doesn't take Moxley down. He kicks out at a 1 count, but all it takes after that is 4 BTE triggers, and that finally put the icing on the cake. Moxley flat on his back for a clean 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. There you go. It was just, I can look past the multiple super kicks. I can look past the 4 BTE triggers. It was just so much tomfoolery nonsense happening in the ring at all times. Multiple guys being involved, multiple guys running in, people all in the ring, Rick Knox not really being there, and this is supposed to be a traditional tag match. It didn't get that from me, so that's why I really hated the match. I can look past a few of the things, the multiple finishers and stuff. All right, yeah, I can see why it sucks, but what sucked more for me is just constant 76 guys in the ring at all times. It was like an old ECW match.
So all the shit we talked about throughout this match, it could have been partially negated by an exciting finish to this match. But there are so many logical spots where the crowd is hot and where the Young Bucks could have pulled off the win. Maybe right after a double super kick, maybe one of the high spots they pulled off there, maybe after a Meltzer driver. They could have moved the entrance ramp Meltzer driver towards the end of the match and ended on that. But we ended this match flatter than a plate full of piss on these 4 BTE triggers, because it was just 1 BTE trigger, 2 BTE trigger, 3 BTE trigger, for BT Trigger, lay down 1, 2, 3. It was dead. That was a very boring finish.
Yeah. I don't think it came across right. I think they were trying to come across with the fact that they had to kill Jon Moxley to pin him type thing. I think that's what it was going for, and I don't think it came across that way. But nonetheless, I thought it sucked. I don't think it sucked. I just wasn't happy with it. Sucks kind of egregious. Like, that's pretty aggressive, but we'll move on. What's the next match?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want to get lost in this thing. I could probably bullshit on this match. We could have just reviewed this whole match because they got about 6 different ways that they could have fixed things too, but we'll just move on.
Right. We're going to hop right into the Casino Battle Royale here. And this thing was just a hot mess, Brian. It was just a bunch of chaos. Even the announcers are confused throughout this thing. And this match, they decided to add Paul White to the mix. We're finally going to take our big signee, Paul White, and put him on a commentary team for a show that people will actually see. And Paul White is the most awkward announcer I've ever encountered.
He shit the bed on this one. He shit the bed. This whole thing, you're right though, seemed off from how they did the introductions. They're putting their own spin on a Royal Rumble, but they're putting their own spin on a Battle Royal. I get it, creating something new. I'm fine with that. But like, they sell it like, oh, it's the clubs. Right? What's the first suit up? The clubs. Remember, guys, it's a surprise. So I could care less if it's the clubs, because I don't know who's in the clubs. I didn't know who drew a club.
Right. So where's the excitement in that?
So there was no backstory. They should have figured out a way to create a story to kind of know who was in the clubs or who was in the hearts and when they were coming out. It should have been known who was in each suit, but you didn't know when each suit was going to get drawn. Then you could be like, oh, my God, you know what I'm saying? And then obviously save the Joker for the end. And they leave that a surprise. That's fine. It's the last one. You know it's the last one. It's the only one, and it's the Joker. But you should have been like, oh, that means such and such group's coming out first. Oh, Christian's group is coming out last. There could have been some excitement for it, but they're like, the Hearts. Can you believe it? The Hearts is up next. Cool. It doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter.
And they keep the confusion rolling because one of the suits here contained Matt Hardy, and Matt Hardy came out with both members of Private Party. And after watching this pay-per-view and after reading reviews online, I still don't know if Private Party were actually in this match or because it was no DQ, if they were just allowed to accompany Matt Hardy and help protect him.
Yeah, I don't know, because then they got, like, when they went over the ropes, they left. So it's like, well, if you're not in it, just get back in and keep protecting Matt Hardy. I don't know. It was goofy.
Right. Max Caster came into this thing first. He came in before his partner there, and he had to spit a little rap, and I just noted this one, a little shot at Christian, a little shot at WWE here, and I quote from Max Caster, Christian dusted off the cobwebs. He used to be cool, but only when he had an edge.
I mean, not a bad little line. It was kind of fun.
Not bad. And Christian no-sold it. The camera's on Christian. He's like, well, what's he talking about? I don't get it.
And then the heat that he was trying to get on Dustin, I couldn't tell if Dustin wasn't understanding his spot or if it got messed up or if it was supposed to be overdrawn like that. Like, Dustin has no respect for him, but it came across awkward where he's going, look at me. Yo, Dustin, I said, look at me. Yo, Dustin, I said, okay. We get like, Dustin, look at him or shut up. I don't know which one to do.
And then his line was, you're ugly, you should paint your whole face. So
it wasn't even cool.
A pretty flat diss there. But yeah, just a bunch of chaos. And then we finally get to you got the clubs, the Hearts, blah, 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 blah. Then we finally get to the 21st entry in this match. And we spoiled it a little earlier. The Joker, Leo Rush, coming into this thing. And it was announced by Tony Khan after this pay-per-view a day or two later that currently Leo Rush isn't signed to AEW. It's kind of a handshake deal right now until they get everything hammered out. Leo Rush can currently work in both New Japan and AEW with a gentleman's agreement.
Well, there you go. That's an interesting little twist, especially with the rumors of WWE possibly working with New Japan as well. So can he now float freely amongst all three?
We shall see. Our final three in this, unless you had a spot or two you wanted to pick up on, our final three in this thing, in this shit show, is Christian, Jungle Boy, and Matt Hardy. Now, Matt Hardy gets eliminated, leaving two baby faces in the ring. And I kind of get where they're going with this, because you and I both agreed that there was only two logical winners to this thing. It was either Christian Cage or Jungle Boy. And that's what it came down to. So they wanted to leave you guessing, but they have two baby faces competing to win this thing. If you're going to have Jungle Boy do this thing, I think you should have had a heel eliminate Christian, and then you could start a new feud somewhere with an elimination. But what are you going to do with two baby faces eliminating each other? And especially once Jungle Boy puts Christian over the top rope, they end up shaking hands and hugging and exchanging words of encouragement. There's just no heat there whatsoever.
Yes, and then it's again, where are we at with Christian? Where's he going? What's he doing? Right. That's just
Christian
where we
just ends up sinking back down to the middle of the pack there. And what are we going to get with Jungle Boy here? Jungle Boy, they love to push him for a little bit and then kind of forget about him, or push him to the moon and then decide he's not ready for it. So knock him back down. So it just seems we're going to enter that same cycle again, where we're going to see Jungle Boy and Kenny Omega sometime in the future. But unless they really pull a swerve here, I don't think there's any way Omega's dropping that main title to Jungle Boy anytime soon.
It would be a weird spin, but we've seen stranger. I guess we'll just have to wait it out and see what they have going for him here. What's the next match? What do we got going on next? We go backstage. Where are we at?
I didn't keep track of any of the backstage shit.
That's fine.
We're just going match by match.
That's fine.
And
nothing backstage interesting happened anyways.
We're going right into Cody Rhodes versus Anthony Ogogo. And this was the sleeper. This was the sleeper match of the night, because I wasn't expecting shit from Anthony Ogogo. He hasn't really showed us anything to be impressed by besides a few tummy punches here and there. We've seen him week after week punch people in the tummy, and it knocks them down for the count, ends up taping up their ribs, really putting them out of action. And so, yeah, I wasn't expecting much from Ogogo here, but he really put on a show for this match. He really showed us what he had to offer. Ogogo's a hell of a rookie, Brian.
He is. I think he'll be all right. He's just a young kid, and hopefully he can, just keep working the craft and learning how to, do professional wrestling the proper way. And I think he's got a decent little thing going on in front of him. He keeps working with, Cody Rhodes is not a bad guy to take you under his wing. And then, I know on TV they're mad at each other, but there's a reason they're mad at each other. That's so that they can wrestle each other, and Cody Rhodes can get him over like a sumbitch.
Right. And there's just a couple things in this match that I don't think went the right way. First things first, Ogogo hit that tummy punch on Cody Rhodes within 30 to 40 seconds of the opening of this match. And Rhodes sells it for a little bit, but then he's right back in action. And like I just previously stated, when Ogogo punches you in the tummy, you're done. It's a wrap.
Let's just address that I love that you call it a tummy punch and bury it so well. But yes, that was put in and done way too early. I jumped right on that as soon as we saw it and was thinking, that's been his go-to move.
That's the knockout blow.
Like, now it's gone. Now what do you got?
Right. So, but throughout this match, you can clearly tell Cody's leading the dance. He's calling the match. He's completely in charge, but Ogogo is following every step. He doesn't botch anything and hits a hell of a frog splash at one point too. So Ogogo essentially gets over in this match because we finally see what he has to offer. But Cody ends up hitting the vertebraker on Anthony Ogogo here for the win. And I personally think this would have been one of the times where Cody should have laid down and put Ogogo over, because Ogogo winning this match would have really elevated him and it wouldn't have hurt Cody at all. The only reason I can think Cody won this match is because he put on that stupid dramatic promo a couple weeks ago, and he would have looked like a goofball if he lost.
That, he took on his dad's moniker, right? The American Dream. He dropped the Nightmare for the night. He was the American Dream. It was the old homage to Pops, and so he had a lot of stuff that would have also got hurt with that. But I agree with you. The thing that drove me nuts, not drove me nuts, but the thing that bothered me a couple times was the commentators stating that Anthony Ogogo's a boxer. He's from the boxing world, not the wrestling world, and he doesn't know how to get on top of ropes. And he came from Cody's wrestling school. It's part of the goddamn storyline.
It's not a secret.
It's not a secret. He came from the Nightmare Factory. Like, he was in the training grounds working with Cody and becoming a pro wrestler. I bet you he got on top of the ropes and jumped a few times, right? I'm sure that's the way it goes. But it was a minor thing, but it was a little kooky and drove me a little nuts. But we can move on.
Right. Yeah, I think he was trained on how to use wrestling ropes a time or two. But Cody ends up picking up the dub on that one, and we're moving into the TNT Championship match here. We've got the two behemoths going at it. I was pretty pumped to see this match. We had Miro versus Lance Archer for the TNT Championship. And this thing was ended up stinking up the joint, I think, a little bit. I don't know if I was just expecting too much, but man, this thing sucked.
I thought it was good. It didn't like steal the show, but I thought it was okay. I think you might have been putting maybe too much on it and thinking, hey, Miro's finally on some murderous game here. You're a Lance Archer guy. You like his style. Or you see the potential in Lance Archer that could be done right. So you're expecting, hey, these guys are going to go out there and beat the hell out of each other. Didn't quite deliver all that, but I thought it was an okay match. But what did you hate? What did you not like about it?
Well, first off, when you got these two monsters in the ring, you want them to beat the hell out of each other. Not within the first 30 seconds of the match, doing balancing acts on the top rope there. And you know Lance Archer at 6'7" and 270 pounds or so, you know he's not balancing on that rope by himself. You know he's holding Miro's hand so Miro can guide him through it. And just right off the bat, 30 seconds into this match, all believability is thrown out the window because you got Miro holding his buddy's hand while he dances on the top rope so he can do his little moonsault. And you got Aubrey Edwards just not giving a fuck when these two go outside the ring and they're fighting outside of the ring forever. No counting, no get back in the ring, no hey, what are you doing? Aubrey Edwards she used to be the toughest ref in AEW, and she's just letting herself get buried now.
I think I'm going to guess that just got told, hey, man, you can't be that. We don't run that kind of wrestling show.
You're just there to count the 1, 2, 3 pretty much.
That's it.
Miro ends up, this was a pretty interesting spot here. It kind of like made you perk up. Miro throws Archer right into the quote unquote crowd, and you don't notice right off the bat that it's just AEW employees sitting in this particular section of the crowd. But because when Miro throws Archer into that group of people there, he wiped them out like bowling pins. It was a wrap on those guys. They're laying down and they're selling. They are all into it.
I don't think they had to sell.
Yeah, Archer's a big boy. And right back with the interference here. Jake Roberts, he didn't come down with Lance Archer initially because I think Miro actually punched him in the tummy earlier and tore a page out of Go-Go's book. But Jake Roberts makes his way down to the ring to interfere, and Jake Roberts is holding the fakest snake bag I've ever seen in my life. This bag isn't moving. This bag looks like it weighs about 3 pounds. It's like a pillowcase on Halloween night with a few Snickers bars in it. And Roberts teases that he's going to release a snake on Miro. Miro grabs his bag with one hand and launches it 40 feet across the arena. And
that was the end
you
of that.
can actually see this snake bounce off the ramp there, and it was a wrap on the snake there.
Yeah, that spot, I couldn't tell at first if it was just terrible and Jake couldn't get it untied and there was supposed to be something happening. But then I'm going to lean towards he was supposed to be faking like he couldn't get it untied, and then Miro murders a snake on TV, and clearly PETA doesn't care about snakes.
Right. I had to take it a few steps further in my mind and think maybe they made it look extremely fake on purpose. That way PETA and the folks at home didn't get too riled up about Miro throwing a snake across the arena.
That's a good possibility. Good possibility.
Yeah. Archer ends up hitting a choke slam on Miro here, getting his comeback. But eventually, Miro gets Archer into the camel clutch, and we go right back to the well. WWE's been using this. AEW's been using this, where the babyface doesn't give up, Brian. The babyface just passes out.
Yeah. I liked this spot in the way that this finished for a while because it was, one, it was different. For two, it left the storyline open, and it kept the loser from being, quote, buried. It kept the winner to say, well, hey, man, like, listen, I choked you out. Like, I put you out. I put you to sleep. You couldn't even tap out. So everybody had an angle to work with. But again, we've gone to the well too many times. You've just seen it too much.
It was different in past tense. And it's not different anymore because these sons of bitches just keep going back over and over and over again.
And then never really use it right. Miro never isn't going to use it for any mocking purposes. Archer's never going to say, you didn't beat me. He's never going to call Aubrey Edwards down and like do a whole ref threatening thing where it's like, you know, then he wants a match with such and such as the special enforcer referee, or he wants Miro in a cage, you know, to bring back Ken Shamrock and they're going to have an ultimate fighting rules match. Like, there's a lot of things that you could just throw against the wall here and make out of this, but it'll probably just be a move on and picks the next guy to fight.
Right. It was just lazy booking. They didn't want to bury Archer, so they said he passed out, and that's going to be the end of it.
There you go.
And moving on from that, we've got our next championship match of the night. We've got Brit Baker going up against the current at the time, AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida. There's no surprises in this one, Brian. So Hikaru Shida has made it known that it's her dream. It's her lifelong dream, Brian, to be champion and wrestle a match in front of a live crowd. And she never got that chance. So she held on to that belt for just over a year here at this point. AEW held a celebration for Shida for her 1-year anniversary as champion. They presented a new women's championship belt. That way Shida could keep the old one as a souvenir. And anyone with a half a brain in their head knew that the writing was on the wall right then. She's going to get to live out her lifelong dream of wrestling. She's got a souvenir belt here. She got her celebration. The true face of the women's division is finally going to get her hands on that title, Brit Baker.
Finally, the champ is here. Yeah, I was, I don't know if I liked this match or if I liked the outcome.
I think we both liked the outcome, and that was about it. We were just watching this match, just wondering how Brit Baker was going to end up winning.
Yep. It was a lot of teases of different times that she was going to win, and then she wouldn't win, and then there was a few times where it looked like she was going to lose, and she got over it. So I thought it was well put together. I don't care for Sheeta, which makes it hard to say like that I love the match, but it was I wanted the story I wanted to be told, so it was like, hey, is it going to happen? No. Oh, wait, yay, no. I was all over the place with emotion, so I like that part of it, I guess. They told a good story with it.
Yeah, as a match, it was all right. It was a little clunky. Their timing was a little off here and there. Sheeta is clearly a little more polished in the ring than Brit Baker here, but with Brit Baker's personality, she outshines everyone else in the women's division here. Again, we got to have interference in the match. That seems to be another theme. Referees not giving half a shit, and interference in every single match here. Rebel tries to interfere with her crutch, but whatever, some more bullshit happened.
I think I think the interferences in the pay-per-view this last weekend was a sign or it was just a reason to put more people on the show instead of making it even longer and giving everybody more time, another match. So they got to squeeze in a bunch of guys for run-ins and such is the only thing I can think of, part of it.
Right. So Rebel didn't really do shit with her crutch. The previous match, Jake Roberts, his interference added nothing to the match. In fact, Jake Roberts was laying in the ring during one of Archer's pen attempts on Miro there. But Britt puts on her custom sequined doctor's glove, ends up locking in that lockjaw. Sheeta taps, and we got a new AEW Women's Champion. And Tony Schiavone, just no problem breaking kayfabe here. Commentators aren't really supposed to be best friends with the heels here, but old Tony Schiavone quickly drops his headset, leaves the announce table, meets Brit Baker on the ramp, gives her a big old hug and a little pep talk.
Yeah, I thought we were going to get a Tony Schiavone interview because I heard somebody say in the commentator team, whether it was Excalibur or JR, was like, oh, Tony's out of here. And I was like, oh, you're going to get him on the ramp and be like, oh, Brit Baker, you won the championship. What was it? And she can be like, wah, 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 and cut a promo in her that bitchy attitude voice she's got. And that could have been her and Tony bonding and having a moment because, they've been friends or something over this time. So, but no, it just went out there and gave a hug and then went and sat back down. It's like,
right.
Why did JR shouldn't have mentioned it. It could have just passed by. The camera didn't have to cut to it, and it could have just been over. But what I do want to give props to is Brit Baker's outfit and the throwback and the head nod into good old Scott Hall.
Yeah, you had the blood dripping on the tights there. That was definitely a Scott Hall NWO inspired outfit. She really put some thought into that, and it came out well. That was a really awesome outfit Britt Baker wore.
100%. And we got a new champion, so God bless it's off of Sheeta, and we can see what can happen now in the women's division. Hopefully something.
And just a little cool tidbit after this. I think it was a day or two after this match. There's a fan that happens to be a patient at Britt Baker's dental office in Orlando, Florida. Went in there and got a photo with Britt Baker with her new AEW championship belt, and she's wearing scrubs and no makeup and glasses, and Britt Baker went right back to work being a dentist. And then a second photo came up from the same day, I'm assuming, with her and Adam Cole in her dental office.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I wasn't sure if how much she still worked as a dentist, but gotta have a backup plan. Wrestling's not forever. Enjoy it while it's here.
Yeah, and next time I'm down in Florida, I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I chip a tooth or something and go see D S.
S.
S. All right.
Get your teeth scrubbed up.
Next on our card here, we've got Sting's first match since 2015, something like that.
As a singles, right? He did that cinematic style match with Darby Allin a few months back at that last pay-per-view in the warehouse.
That doesn't count.
That was the only other thing we got.
Right. So we've got Sting live and in color in a match here with his partner Darby Allin, and they are taking on Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky here. Sting, for the ripe old age of 62, and I'm sure having a shit ton of ring rust on him, he did fantastic in this match, Brian. I was impressed.
I wasn't disappointed. I was already put up the disappointment in my own brain that I was going to be disappointed that I had nowhere to go but up, and then he definitely sold me on the up. It was a good swing. It was, he's 62, when, he hadn't wrestled in a long time, and being as polite as possible, clearly wasn't in the greatest of shape either. I mean, he's good shape for a 62-year-old walking down the street.
Right. He came into this match wearing a baggy t-shirt and tights, looking like a trendy TikTok girl there. But eventually he lost the t-shirt, and we got to see his flabby grandpa bod. And but normally on a stupid bump like a ramp, you want the babyface to sell the shit out of it to get some sympathy there. But when it's Sting taking a backdrop on a wooden ramp, I was impressed that he was able to no sell it. Because at the ripe old age of 39, if I took a backdrop on a solid wooden ramp,
it's a wrap.
I'd be selling the shit out of it, and not on purpose.
Because it actually fucking hurt. Yeah, I think this was a good spot for Sting to be in a tag match. He could get in and be fresh, and when he was going down, get out of the ring and let the young kids do what they do. And he can get lost in the mix, and he came out looking like nothing but roses.
Right. We get an impressive spot from Ethan Page here. Now, we know Darby Allin's probably 140 pounds soaking wet here, but Ethan Page just presses Darby above his head and throws Darby Allin from the ring over the top rope, clears the barricade, and goes right into the fake crowd there. Ethan Page got some strength on him, man. Like I said, Darby's a small fella.
But
it still takes a lot of work to launch a motherfucker 12 to 13 feet like that.
Right. I mean, the original throw when they had, what's his name? Oh, God dang it. It was just right there. I can picture the little Spike Dudley when Bam Bam tossed him in ECW. But that was a little guy getting thrown by a giant. So this was a little guy getting thrown by a slightly bigger guy. Still very impressive.
Right. They're not too far off on the size there. Page has a little more beef to him, but the low light, if you will, of this match here was, sad to say, Aubrey Edwards here. So we got this gimmick that's been used over and over. It's kind of an old school thing here where the babyface is fighting and fighting and fighting to get the hot tag for his partner so his partner can come in, get the comeback, and clean house. And the babyface gets the tag. His partner comes in, and he's whooping everyone's ass, and the referee just happened to not see the tag. And that was what we were going for here. The problem, Brian, is the hard camera caught Aubrey Edwards looking right at Darby Allin and Sting when Darby made the tag to Sting. And Darby, instead of getting the tag and getting pulled back by one of the heels to the middle of the ring or to the other corner or everything to make the missed tag look believable, Darby is laying in his own corner where Sting was. So when Aubrey tries to pull this thing off and say she didn't see the tag, it's complete bullshit because, one, she saw the tag, and two, Darby Allin is still in the corner, for Christ's sake.
So
just how would he have not made that tag? Why would he be in the corner, and why would Sting be in the ring fighting if Darby didn't just reach up and make that tag? Aubrey Edwards just completely blew that, and it just looked like complete shit on her part.
Yep. Yeah, if it's just off camera, if it's on camera when it's not supposed to be, there's just nothing you can do. Unfortunately, I don't know who to blame. Aubrey, the cameraman, Darby, the whole team of everybody was in the wrong place at the wrong time. But when you can see it, it makes it make no sense, right? They should just go with it. That's when I don't know if AEW's using earpieces with their refs, but you need to feed them information. You know what I'm saying? Somebody backstage producing going, just go with it. Go with it. It was on camera.
So, yeah, I think at that point when she was pushing Sting out of the ring because she, quote unquote, didn't see the tag, the crowd started booing. So even the crowd saw it. That is a complete farce on that end. But we get a goofy spot here where Sting has Ethan Page in a Scorpion Deathlock. Scorpio Sky has Darby Allin in a heel hook. And Darby Allin and Ethan Page are face to face, belly down on the mat, and they're gonna have their own little fight while they're in submission moves, and that's just AEW for you. You got to add a little goof to the match.
Yeah, I thought that was okay. It didn't lead to anything big and detrimental into the match. Meaning it wasn't the turning point of anything. It wasn't how somebody won, right? It was just a face to face. Your guys put me in a submission, I'm in a submission, and we're gonna slap each other. It only lasted a few seconds. I didn't mind that one so much.
Yeah, it was just goofiness, and that's pretty much all it was. But what do you expect? Sting ends up getting the win. Scorpio Sky went for a tornado DDT. Sting was able to counter it and hit that Scorpion Death Drop. Sting actually gets the pin in this match, and Darby Allin and Sting are victorious, and no surprises there.
For a tag match, AEW style, this was pretty decent. There was trying to be rules on tagging, right? They attempted. The one time they attempt to enforce tagging, and they failed miserably when there was clearly a tag. And then you have other times when there's nobody tagging at all, and they're just, complete nonsense happening. But overall, I thought this was a pretty decent tag match. AEW hasn't always put on the best tag matches, and compared to the first one we had, this one was pretty good, I thought. Comparatively.
Right. I expected Sting to come into this thing and performing like Mr. Burns in this match or something, barely able to move. And I think just Sting being able to put on a decent performance here did definitely bring this match up a few notches. It looked good. It wasn't a terrible match. We're going to give it that.
It wasn't terrible. It was just existed. And we move on and progress forward.
Yes, now we have our AEW Championship match here. We've got Kenny Omega versus Orange Cassidy versus Pac in a triple threat match here. And this match was what it was, Brian. Just an exhibition and show of Cirque de Bullshit. Just people doing things to each other.
That, and it was a common thing that we've seen and talked about several weeks back on the last WWE pay-per-view of one guy in, one guy out.
Precisely.
So two guys in the ring, one guy hurt on the outside, and rotate. Ding! Hot potato.
Right. You're rotating. Guys are taking bumps or taking strikes or whatever. They would normally sell for 10 or 12 seconds tops in a normal one-on-one match, but these guys are selling it for 3 or 4 minutes just so that they can rotate in and out of the match, and so they can get their shit in. They got to do their spots. At one point, a nice goofy spot here. Orange Cassidy giving a hurricanrana to both Pac and Kenny Omega, because we know 135-pound Orange Cassidy can definitely lean back and flip roughly 450 pounds a man.
Yeah, if Matt Jackson can, if Jon Moxley can belly to back suplex, the entire Young Bucks, why couldn't Orange Cassidy do a hurricanrana to everybody in the match?
Right. Now there was a Superman strength spot in here that I actually popped for. You were there, you saw me when Kenny Omega did that Sparta kick to Pac there, and Pac flew literally halfway across the ring into the turnbuckle. I was like, holy shit. Pac was helping out on that,
Well,
but
yeah,
that looked so clean, and he hit that corner so hard. That thing was awesome. I loved it.
This match, for me, was overall expected what I got. So I wasn't let down, and I wasn't over the moon for it either. I just went in going, we know what's going to happen. And what we knew was going to happen is what happened. So, I wasn't upset or disappointed, right? I think it just all was par for the course.
Right, exactly. This was just an exhibition, if you will. It was just let's show off. Now, one thing that kind of irritated me. All right, I will give you Orange Cassidy's gimmick with the fake kicks and the whatever at the beginning of a match. I understand he just don't care. He's there. He's not really interested in the match. It gives you a couple fake shin kicks there to annoy you. But we're 20 minutes into this match, Brian. Pac's been beating the shit out of him. Omega's been beating the shit out of him. And here comes Cassidy doing the fake kick spot 20 minutes into this match. And it was just like,
I can't disagree with you.
Why there? He still doesn't care. He's quote unquote, if we're living in kayfabe here,
near death.
been getting the shit kicked out of him the entire match, and he just still doesn't care. He's gonna goof around and do halfway kicks. That was just terrible timing on that. Again, we have because it's a triple threat, there's no rules, no DQs. So Kenny Omega takes that opportunity to just blatantly knock the ref out. And I get it because he's a heel doing heel shit, but it was just like so blatant, incredibly blatant. It was just kind of shoving it down your throat. Ha ha ha, I'm a bad guy.
Yeah, at least I guess they picked the right guy to do it.
Right, I guess they didn't have Pac do it.
That wouldn't have made any sense. So I thought maybe they could have done it where Don Callis did something to that effect, but I guess it didn't. So you could do it. At least you got Kenny. That's the next best thing, I guess.
Right, and then the ending of this match here was what got the biggest pop from the crowd here. So the ref is knocked out, which wouldn't matter anyway because there's no DQs. Pac is pretty much knocked out at this point. He's just kind of woozy. Omega starts calling for belts from Don Callis here, who at this point has left the commentary booth and joined Kenny Omega at ringside. Callis hands Omega first the TNA belt, which I don't understand, Brian. How do we have a TNA belt and an Impact belt here? Can you clear that up?
No, I just think they have two and haven't merged them together or separated them yet. Kind of like how WWE ended up with two championships for a while when they merged with WCW and that weird awkward phase.
All right, so yeah, there's not going to be any clarity on that tonight, I guess.
That's
so
it.
First,
they just have two.
Kenny Omega gets the TNA belt, gives Pac a good whack to the dome piece of that one. Pac sells it fantastically. Number two, we get the Impact belt. Don Callis hands that to Kenny Omega here. Gives Pac another whack to the head, this time with the Impact belt. Why not go for three at this point? We get the AAA, whatever the hell championship
Mega
belt.
championship, I believe.
Yeah, the AAA Mega Championship belt. Kenny Omega gives Pac another whack to the dome. And then finally, three's not enough. We're going with number four. We got to complete the set here. He is the belt collector after all. Kenny Omega, one final blow, this time with the AEW Championship belt, right across Pac's head. Pac, flat on his back, takes the 1, 2, 3. Kenny Omega retains the AEW Championship.
Because they went to the well so many times on that belt thing, is when I thought it was going to flip at the end. Boom, he takes, he takes an Impact belt, he takes a Mega Championship, and then it wasn't this, and then it was finally the AEW Championship, and that was when I thought Pac was going to dip, move, and grab a belt and mollywop Kenny and that's when you were going to see the turn, and that's when you're going to see maybe Pac actually win. I thought, just because they went so many times, like, really, they're going to do this again? Really, they just murdered Pac and then moved on with life.
Right. Another flat finish. I understand that it went into the belt collector gimmick there, that he had to do all four, but it definitely showed signs that there's going to be a twist at the end. My personal feeling was that Omega was going to get distracted or something to that effect, and Orange Cassidy was going to end up stealing the victory there, because we all know Tony Khan loves him some Orange Cassidy, but no, to no avail. Another finish, flat as a plate full of piss. Kenny Omega ends up retaining, and that is that. He is still your AEW champion, and he will be facing Jungle Boy here at a later date.
Yeah, probably on a Wednesday night is my guess for that, and it'll have a special name, and that's just the way it rolls. Overall, this was like this was the championship match.
Right. It was just a display of goofiness.
This was supposed to be your best guy taking on the next possible best guys. Pac's great. Orange Cassidy is not there, but for this, but he gets over with the crowd, so who am I to judge on that? But it was just lackluster, and then it just has to go into a bunch of nonsense. You just have to hit the guy 4 times with the belt to win. I guess, again, it's kind of like that quick sleeper, never tapped move, that we were talking about earlier. Put him in a chokehold, and I never tapped. The ref called it. You can be like, Kenny, it took you 4 belts to beat me. Let's do this in a cage where no referees can be interfered and this and that, or let's make it this. I don't know. You could make another match out of it for the next pay-per-view, but it just seemed weak and just kind of non-memorable.
Yeah, and that's what it could be, Brian. This could lead into more shit between Pac and Omega, but let's remember who we're dealing with here. It's a wrap.
That's
Omega and Pac back onto a different feud. One of them may be feuding with Miro here. We'll probably see Pac and Miro next pay-per-view.
And then also, it's just weird, and WWE did this for a while too, especially when CM Punk had the championship, is the title was not the main event. It was weird. And with John Cena's matches would be the main event, and CM Punk would be somewhere, just before it, and you're going, wow, that's weird. And this was the same thing. Mind you, a little bit of that was, 8 guys, 10 guys in the next match, in that stadium stampede. So they're going to start in the football stadium and work their way around. It's going to be a bunch of nonsense. They're going to beat the hell out of each other with everything in the building. So really, who wants to follow 10 guys in a match that is unlimited in possibilities? But you don't remember it now. If you say AEW Double or Nothing 2021, you'd be like, oh, that other stadium stampede. You know what I'm saying? There's that final taste of the pay-per-view, and it's not remembered by the title.
Right. The AEW championship, the most protected championship in all of wrestling, just gets lost in the sauce.
Lost in the sauce. And then speaking of the stadium stampede match, I believe that's where we're at.
Just before the stadium stampede, we have an announcement that the new signee to AEW, which we spoiled this earlier, but Mark Henry is announced as being all elite now. He will be a commentator on Rampage, I believe they said. But Mark Henry comes out, waves, doesn't say a word, and they say you can catch him next Friday on Dynamite, where he's actually going to say something.
Yeah, why have him say anything? Why have him tease anything? Why not just have him come out and wave like the Queen of England and then step back, or the Pope or something here, and then just disappear off into the backstage? It's like, I'd be mad if I was Mark Henry. Like, you had me come to this, put on a suit, and do this whole 9, and then to come out and go, Mark Henry's going to talk and be our Rampage, and we'll have him talk on Dynamite in a week. Just leave. Like, I could have stayed at home. You could have just put a picture of me up.
Yeah, I think what this kind of plays into also is TNT's no surprises rule. Remember, they wanted every new signee, every big surprise or whatever, they wanted them announced beforehand. That way you could bring in the viewers. So this was, I think, AEW's way of being able to surprise the audience at home and surprise the crowd on a non-TNT show. And it kind of plays into an unofficial announcement that they will be announcing Mark Henry as All Elite on the next episode of Dynamite.
Yeah. Just seems weird, though, to have the debut and you don't get to say anything or say something and have a run-in happen and have somebody interrupt you. And then you go, we'll finish this on I almost said SmackDown. We'll finish this on Dynamite.
Yeah, whatever. It was what it was. But next, Brian, we've got the, as you call it, the Stadium Stampede. As I call it, the football fuckery.
Part 2.
Now, this match, it was what it was. It was basically a playlist of Saturday Night Live skits, badly written Saturday Night Live skits. But what makes this thing absolute trash and just makes it worse than what it was with our eyes is the very next day, Brian, an interview was released with Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho just couldn't wait to say how proud he was of Football Fuckery 2 because it took them 4 days to film it. And they hired a stunt coordinator for all the fight scenes. So they couldn't even let it marinate that the possibility that this thing happened in one take, that this thing happened live and they just happened to have a camera in every corner of the Jaguar Stadium here. Jericho has to just spill the beans immediately and say, man, I'm so happy we did this. It took us 4 days to film it. You just take all the magic right away and flush it right down the toilet immediately the very next day, Brian.
That's pretty bad. I missed that. I'm glad you saved that for now because that really does just put a stink on the whole thing, doesn't it?
Right. It takes away any credibility. Now, granted, once we get into this thing, there wasn't much credibility to begin with, but that just wipes all the credibility clean, announcing that it took you 4 days and you needed a stunt coordinator to choreograph the fights. Absolutely rotten.
Yeah. I was wondering if what was pre-taped and what wasn't in there. I had a feeling some of it, if not majority of it, was. And they put it together good, though, for the live show.
Right. And then my other problem with this is, all right, so this Cornette actually brought this up, and it's an amazing point, and I have to share it with you, that so 2-3 weeks ago, whatever, they knew they were going to have a full capacity crowd for Double or Nothing. And at this time, a few weeks ago, they still had pretty much a bare empty arena besides their own employees that were in the house. And that is when they chose to put on Blood and Guts, the War Game style match, the big match that people have been anticipating for a year. They decided to put that whole thing together in the arena for a crowd of 0. And now they have 5,000 people in the crowd, capacity, assholes and elbows, and they do a pre-tape match that they show on the big screen. Wouldn't it make way more sense to flip-flop those? They could have did Stadium Stampede on a big screen 3 weeks ago on TV and then did Blood and Guts in front of a full capacity crowd. It would have made way more sense. And I guess that's the key word. It would have made sense. So AEW is not going to do it.
Right. Yeah, that would have been good. They could have done that. It would have been an empty arena. They weren't they were at minimum capacity as it was. So why put a whole crowd through that? I mean, I don't always agree with Jim Cornette, but that one I do.
Yeah, they should have flip-flopped that, definitely. I guess the only reason there is that whole cage thing. I guess there's no way to suspend the cage so the rest of the pay-per-view can happen, but definitely blood and guts should have went on in front of a crowd, and football fuckery could have been done in an empty arena because the thing was taped anyway.
Yeah. Disappoints me when you find out more of it's taped than I actually gave credit to. So not necessarily the most...
4 days, Brian.
That's obnoxious. This was you. I would like to hear. I would think you have to say this one was at least a little better than the first one.
Yeah, I guess so. This was, I guess, if you take yourself out of it and you're not trying to believe it and you're just watching it for pure entertainment, which watching the rest of the show, the first 3.5 hours of this thing, all suspension of belief, it is completely wiped. After watching all the goofiness throughout the first part of this pay-per-view, I guess you're just kind of in the mood where you can just watch something and be sports entertained, to use your phrase there. And you're just watching this thing for the skits here. At one point, we've got Wardlow and Jake Hager fighting in a freezer in Jaguar Stadium here. And we got plastic pigs swinging from the ceiling here because, they looked faker in hell. They looked like straight up plastic. I don't know where they get those things made. And where's the believability anyway? Does you think the restaurant walk-in freezers at the football stadiums just have entire half pigs just hanging around in the freezer
during the off season?
Right. So that was just goofy. And then you get Wardlow threatening to stab Jake Hager here with a fucking icicle. It's just like, all right, whatever. I get it. You fucking goofballs.
Their part didn't bother me as much as, I'm not sure where we're at timeline wise, but we can just bounce around this thing. It's skits. The FTR in the club thing or in the bar.
Okay, yeah. They were just skits, and it doesn't matter what order they went in. So yeah, we can hop to that one right here. FTR, Tully Blanchard, and Proud and Powerful, Santana and Ortiz, are just hanging out in a nightclub in this football stadium. And this nightclub apparently is open for business.
With
You've got
7
patrons.
people.
You got patrons walking on drinking. The music's pumping. These are mortal enemies, FTR and Proud and Powerful here. But Tully Blanchard decides to ease the tension a little bit between the two groups and pours everybody a shot. Everybody takes a shot, and then it's time to brawl. And who's DJing this party, Brian? Who's on the ones and twos?
Orale! It's K-Dog.
K-Dog Conan is DJing this party, and that got a huge pop from the crowd. A little nostalgia field.
Yeah, why not?
But in what world is it just an off day at the football stadium with the nightclub bumping at and Conan's DJing? I guess he needed some extra bucks, not making too much money on the indie circuit, I guess.
I guess, yeah. Being the boss down in AAA isn't paying the bills. He's got to come up here and run the DJ at a bar for 6 people. And I just thought that was just like you said. They had to break the story. They had to stop and have a shot. They had to show Conan. I don't know.
And then how many fake sugar glass beer bottles did we go through in this scene? Oh my God, it was tremendous.
It was like Dude Perfect.
These things, they basically shatter if you breathe on them wrong. And we couldn't just do one. We couldn't just do a beer bottle over somebody's head and have them blade and be the end of it. We're going through an entire case of them. I think Tony Khan bought them in bulk. Tons of fake beer bottles. And it's just like, okay, I get it. Now, my goofy spot of the night that I found incredibly obnoxious was the Sean Spears spot. Brian.
Yes,
So
this
Sean
is-
Spears is the chairman.
I didn't like this. I know you hated it.
Sean Spears is the chairman, Brian. So when there's a brawl going on with two factions who are mortal enemies, Sean Spears apparently is just might as well be shitting. He is sitting in a storage room full of folding chairs. When the camera enters the room, Sean Spears not only is in a room surrounded by chairs, but he himself is in a chair in the middle of the room with a blue spotlight on him, just hanging out,
Holding
just
a
being
chair.
amongst his people, apparently.
Holding a chair, tapping it on the ground, calling, trying to lure him, Sammy Guevara in. That was pretty bad too. The lighting, the whole thing, and like he's like amongst his people, like he like knows chairs. It's like you get the nickname for the chairman because your debut you mollywopped Cody and split his head wide open, and it was like a joke. You're not like a real like Jake the Snake was a snake guy, sure, but come on, you're a chair guy. That's your thing.
You got a chair fetish. You're a chair of philiac. So I don't know who thought this was a good idea to put into the match. I mean, obviously Jericho, and this takes us back to our original point. There's got to be somebody to say no to these idiots, because I don't get how this came off as a good idea. We'll put the chairman in a room full of chairs. It just screams 1991 WCW.
It was bad. It was bad. That was bad. There's no fixing that.
He ends up brawling with Sammy Guevara and handcuffing him to something or another. But luckily, if you rewind, Sean Spears at some point threw bolt cutters while they were brawling. And as the camera pans perfectly, Sammy Guevara notices those bolt cutters are right in arm's length. So right place, right time. He's handcuffed, but he's able to chop them bolts.
Chop them bolts and get out of there. And then we had the little spot with Jericho and MJF up in the office of who's the ref up there, or the coach for the Tampa or wherever the hell they play at
Jacksonville.
I forget his name now.
Yeah, we get Jericho and MJF brawling, at one point running into a full-size cutout of Shad Khan here. Jericho stapling a flyer or a card or something to MJF's head here, and MJF selling it like an absolute cartoon character at this point. And it's just goofy. They end up brawling. Again, these Jaguars coaches just hang out at the stadium here. End up brawling through an area with a coach there. Jericho asks this fella if he can borrow his laptop and smashes MJF over the head with it. They continue to fight until they end up in a boardroom. More brawling going on here. MJF pile driving Jericho onto the conference table, and Jericho opens up a cabinet, and conveniently, what's in that cabinet, Brian? What just happens to be in a cabinet in one of the coaches' conference rooms here at Jaguar Stadium?
Boy, I hate when you do this to me and I completely have a brain fart and don't remember.
It's Floyd.
Oh, that's right, Floyd. He opened it up and the baseball bat was up there. Okay, I remember where we're at now. I got confused on my spots.
So, yeah, we're in a conference room in the middle of this giant stadium, and Chris Jericho's baseball bat just happens to be in one of the cabinets here. Jericho mollywops MJF in the head here and throws him through a glass door, and MJF's got a little color going on here. We get some blood.
Yeah. The Floyd thing hiding out up there. Like, they could do so much with this where they get, like, some weird pre-tape, where they do some pre-taping. You know, they were there for 4 days. And release some things where it's, like, Jericho hiding the bat, right? He tells everything else. Why not just use social media or something and show these little vignette of security footage of them hiding weapons? And that's how the inner circle plays, right? They've hid weapons. I don't know. They could have just done different, but just having them there, like, oh yeah, that's where I put Floyd. Like,
Yep. Last time I was in a conference with all the Jaguars coaches, I left my baseball bat here. Lucky me.
lucky me. I knew I left it somewhere. Yeah, that was pretty bad. I didn't care for this at all either. I argued with you on the first one because I thought it was entertaining and it made me laugh. I was also really bored during the pandemic, so I give myself a a pass on that one. But it was and it was also a little different, and some of the hidden jokes were funny to me. But this was a match that doesn't need to be a reoccurring, right? Royal Rumble, Blood and Guts, the Casino Battle Royale, right? Those can all be yearly go-tos. I don't think football fuckery, as you like to term it as, or Stadium Stampede, needs to be a go-to. It should have been a one-off and done.
So I give you a pass. We got into our most heated debate over the original Stadium Stampede, you and I. But a year later, I can give it to you there where AEW was still kind of a new thing. It was a different style of wrestling. There was comedy mixed in, and not everyone was looking at wrestling as a sport, even though AEW pushed that they were going to be putting a sport spin on wrestling here.
Plus, the pandemic had just hit too pretty bad. Like, really set in, and they did. All of a sudden, we're like, we're going to do this thing, and we have no audience. What do? We have no crowd, right? Remember, because like Matt Hardy debuted, and it was like, remember, he floated through the ring, he was bouncing all over. That's
right.
They didn't know what to do with no audiences, and they were like, let's try this thing, and so that it was different. That's I can buy into some of that, but a year later, I'm like, all right, boys, you were full back capacity again. Should have done something big.
AEW style was something new and something that caught you off guard, and I can get it to where like, oh man, we got this huge football stadium and we're going to do a bunch of goofy spots. I get the entertainment factor of that, but again, the shit is not new anymore. It's like seeing Orange Cassidy's pocket spot for the 600th time in the past year and a half. A fan of wrestling can see something once or twice and be like, ha, that's funny. I get it. But you see the same shit over and over again and it gets old. These AEW fans, Brian, I don't know what their brain capacity is. I don't know how easily entertained they are. I don't know if they're like a cat where you give them a cardboard box and a ball of tinfoil and they can stay entertained for weeks. They're seeing the same goofy shit and same unbelievable spots and the football fuckery where it's just a bunch of unbelievable comedy skits, and they pop and they love it. These 700,000 or 800,000 people who watch week after week and absolutely love every goofy spot. I just don't get it. How does it not get old?
I don't know. I mean, even we got old of Hogan, right? Even by like 6 or 7, or I'd say by 7 or 8, I was like kind of a rap on Hogan, and I was geek for Warrior to take over. And I was oversold on that, and Hogan only wrestled about every 3 months. You got to see him actually come out on TV, right? This is weekly. We're seeing the same go-to stuff, and I got, I'm oversold on that. And then, so that's that. Where do we move now? Is this when we're in the match? Are we pushing out to the ring now for the live action stuff?
I think we're pushing out to the arena. So now that we know this thing was filmed over 4 days and everything we just watched happened a long time ago, or at least a few days beforehand, now we're forced to believe that this thing has poured into Daly's place here. MJF and Jericho are brawling into Daly's place and they're fighting through the audience. MJF ends up going through a table. Sean Spears makes his entrance running from Sammy Guevara. Sammy Guevara chasing him down with a golf cart, because we know Sammy has had some bad run-ins with golf carts in the past.
Yeah, and then we move into here, and then it starts to push into the ring a little bit, and we actually kind of get a little bit of a match going.
Yeah, we get a little bit of a match between Sammy Guevara and Sean Spears here. A couple more chair shots, if you will. But To wrap this thing up, Sammy ends up getting the pin on Shawn Spears here, and we are left. We go off the air with the Inner Circle celebrating in the ring. The baby faces take the win with middle fingers up.
Yeah, I was happy to see, call it for what it was. I knew exactly what it was going to be because I saw the first one, right? So I knew what this was going to be. Wasn't disappointed or let down or over the moon again. It was just I knew what the Stadium Stampede match delivers, and it did exactly that. A little less degree than last year's, not as much goofiness. There was still some goofiness, but last year's was full of it. Remember there was the suplexes down the 100-yard line. There was Jericho going into the replay thing. There was Matt Hardy changing characters every time he went underwater. There was a handful of them last year that made me laugh, but were still pretty wacky doodle. This was good. I like how it came out into the ring and ended. I like that Sammy Guevara and Shawn Spears were put in the forefront of it to wrap it up. Jericho and MJF have been there. What do they need? Let's get Sammy some. And I'm glad Sammy got the win. And I was happy for that. I like that. I like that Sammy was out there to finish it up and got to perform in front of people again and really stake his place in the company.
Yeah, we actually got to put the spotlight on the guys that are normally on the back burner here. Usually all the spotlights on MJF and Jericho, and they got to get their shit in, definitely. But Sammy G, man, he has unlimited potential in this company. He's a little skinny, but yeah, Sammy G is the next guy in line coming out of the Inner Circle there. And so, yeah, it was nice to see him. If Inner Circle had to win, it was a good way for him to get that dub.
For sure. Faux show. That has been AEW's Double or Nothing. We moved pretty quick, covered a lot through a 4-hour pay-per-view. I mean, the whole podcast we're going on a little over 2 hours, or just about 2 hours now. And, the first chunk of it, we talked about news. We played our little overrated, underrated. We did a little BSing in the beginning. So we moved right along. I think we covered the pay-per-view fairly well for being as long as it was.
I think so. That was 4 hours, and we were able to condense it down to hour and a half, hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, pretty good.
I think AEW could have condensed that damn thing to under 3 hours and actually put it on TV.
Yeah, that would have been great. That has been the KayFabe Smark podcast, guys. Thanks for hanging out and listening and talking wrestling. We will be back next week. We don't know what we're talking about, but we'll see what we decide to come up with. But we'll be here, and we'll talk about wrestling nonetheless. Make sure you hop on all of the social media platforms. Join us on YouTube. Like and subscribe and share. And download. If you've already downloaded the podcast, leave a review. Pop over to YouTube and subscribe there. And get on Instagram and all that fun stuff there. Eric Todd, what do you have to take us out with?
Nothing else. We had a good show here. Good pay-per-view to talk about. A lot of fuckery going on over in AEW. We don't know when AEW is airing next week, if it's going to be on Wednesday, if it's going to be on Friday, if we're going to be forced to watch NXT. I don't know. Next week's going to be a surprise. But for right now, Brian, for this Thursday night, all I have to say is, hooty hoo, we out the gates.